Hello, I am Dale Husband, the Honorable Skeptic, and today I wanted to make a little podcast about a religion I once belonged to, the Baha'i faith. I've talked about that faith several times on YouTube, and even mentioned it several times in the Debbie and Carrie show. Since I left the faith in 2005, I have been one of its strongest critics. Indeed, the longer I am out of it, the more I wonder why I ever joined it. Obviously because in the 1990s there were hardly any dedicated critics of it on the internet, and the internet itself was in its infancy, and not that much could be done with it like we can today. The governing body of the Baha'i faith is known as the Universal House of Justice, and that is a body of 9 men, no women allowed, who are said to be infallible, and therefore have absolute power over the Baha'i community around the world. But are they credible? Let's look at one of its recent messages to Baha'is around the world.
The 25th of November 2020 to the Baha'is of the world, dearly loved friends. We greet you with immense affection on this special day, an occasion for calling to mind the power of the covenant, that power which pulsateth in the body of the contingent world and forges enduring bonds of love among the believers. In the months since Ridvan, we have seen the evidences of this dynamic power in the unified activity of Baha'u'llah's followers, led so ably by the institutions of the cause in each continent and country, as the friends everywhere have sought with characteristic creativity and determination to minister to the needs of an ailing world. Your resilience and your unwavering commitment to the well-being of those around you, persistent through all difficulties, have filled us with tremendous hope. But it is no wonder that, in some other quarters, hope has become a depleted resource. There is a mounting realization on the part of the world's people that the decades ahead are set to bring with them challenges among the most daunting that the human family has ever had to face. The current global health crisis is but one such challenge, the ultimate severity of whose cost, both to lives and livelihoods, is yet unknown. Your efforts to succor and support one another as well as your sisters and brothers and society at large will certainly need to be sustained, and in places expanded. It is against this background of furious storms lashing humanity that the Ark of the Cause is about to embark upon a series of plans that will carry it into the 3rd century of the Baha'i era and significantly strengthen the Baha'i community's capacity for realizing the society-building powers of the faith. As you are aware, the first plan to commence this new series will last but 1 year. In places where circumstances prevent national communities from establishing as many intensive programs of growth before Ridvan 2021 as they intended, these 12 months will extend the time available to them to do so. Meanwhile, wherever the process of growth has already been intensified, the year will be an opportunity to consolidate the achievements made during the current plan, while cultivating the conditions necessary for welcoming larger and larger numbers of souls into the embrace of a community recognized for its fortitude and outward-looking orientation. At the national, regional, and cluster levels, we look to communities of proven strength to help those in which less experience has accrued. In this year-long effort, every community must draw on whatever untapped potential it may possess and seek to overcome any obstacles that are impeding its growth, thereby preparing it for the demands to come. For it is within the context of a flourishing community, especially a center of intense activity in a village or neighborhood, and when each element of the plan's framework is given the attention it requires, that those elements most visibly cohere and connect, multiplying the community's powers in the field of action.
What the hell does any of that statement mean? And it goes on and on and on and on and on like that, for many pages. A link to the entire document is provided in the description below, so you can see for yourself how absolutely tedious most of those statements really are. Contrast that to what Carl Sagan said in the last episode of his 1980 Cosmos series, Who Speaks for Earth?, about the subject of nuclear war, the global balance of terror, pioneered by the United States and the Soviet Union, holds hostage all the citizens of the Earth. Each side persistently probes the limits of the other's tolerance, like the Cuban Missile Crisis, the testing of anti-satellite weapons, the Vietnam and Afghanistan wars. The hostile military establishments are locked in some ghastly mutual embrace, each needs the other. But the balance of terror is a delicate balance, with very little margin for miscalculation. And the world impoverishes itself by spending $1 trillion a year on preparations for war, and by employing perhaps half the scientists and high technologists on the planet in military endeavors. How would we explain all this to a dispassionate extraterrestrial observer? What account would we give of our stewardship of the planet Earth? We have heard the rationales offered by the superpowers. We know who speaks for the nations, but who speaks for the human species? Who speaks for Earth? From an extraterrestrial perspective, our global civilization is clearly on the edge of failure in the most important task it faces: preserving the lives and well-being of its citizens, and the future habitability of the planet. But if we are willing to live with the growing likelihood of nuclear war, shouldn't we also be willing to explore, vigorously, every possible means to prevent nuclear war? Shouldn't we consider, in every nation, major changes in the traditional ways of doing things, a fundamental restructuring of economic, political, social and religious institutions? We have reached a point where there can be no more special interests or special cases. Nuclear arms threaten every person on the earth. Fundamental changes in society are sometimes labeled impractical or contrary to human nature, as if nuclear war were practical, or as if there were only one human nature. But fundamental changes can clearly be made. We're surrounded by them. In the last 2 centuries, abject slavery, which was with us for thousands of years, has almost entirely been eliminated in a stirring worldwide revolution. Women, systematically mistreated for millennia, are gradually gaining the political and economic power traditionally denied to them. And some wars of aggression have recently been stopped or curtailed because of a revulsion felt by the people in the aggressor nations. The old appeals to racial, sexual, and religious chauvinism, and to rabid nationalist fervor are beginning not to work. A new consciousness is developing which sees the earth as a single organism, and recognizes that an organism at war with itself is doomed. We are one planet. I remember as a Baha'i that messages of the Universal House of Justice would be read at Baha'i worship services, called feasts, and even I and some of the others got really irritated at how pointless the statements seemed to be. Ironically, Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, had this to say in one of his writings: "The great being saith, the learned of the day must direct the people to acquire those branches of knowledge which are of use, that both the learned themselves and the generality of mankind may derive benefits therefrom. Such academic pursuits as begin and end in words alone have never been and will never be of any worth. The majority of Persia's learned doctors devote all their lives to the study of a philosophy the ultimate yield of which is nothing but words." I rest my case.